Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday. I'm Jurnee Taylor. Let's jump over to our headlines for the day. The United Auto Workers add more people to the picket lines. Coming up, we'll have more with the latest on negotiations between the union and the big three automakers. Upgrades to the state's electrical grid are coming. More on this and how effective it will be going into colder seasons. And the clock is ticking on a possible government shutdown. More on what has Congress at a standstill and what a shutdown could mean for the nation in 5 minutes. Those stories coming up, but first, goodbye summer. Meteorologist Scott Cobra joins us with what the first weekend of fall has in store for Central Arkansas. Scott?
Jurnee, today may be the last day of official summer, but tomorrow is going to feel pretty warm. In fact, our forecast for tomorrow actually has us in the low 90s, believe it or not. With that said, here's where we're at the lunch hour. Live radar continues to detect some rain in western Arkansas, with some of those showers inching a little bit closer into the metro. We've seen the bulk of the activity really the last several days in western Arkansas. Certainly the case this morning. If we take a closer look into central Arkansas, and we do have some rain now moving into parts of western Saline County, so heads up Benton or Bryant. You're probably going to see some showers soon. Western Pulaski has some very light rain. It's not amounting to much, but it is certainly making a difference in our temperatures. Where we've seen the rain, we're in the 60s and 70s. Where we've not, we're bordering into those low 80s, mid 80s, in fact, right now in Pine Bluff. As for today's forecast, 86 in Little Rock. We'll continue to see that 30% chance of additional scattered showers, occasional storms heading into the weekend. Tomorrow's going to be the more of the dry day, but I do think we could wake up to a few isolated showers tomorrow morning, and then the heat is on. 91 tomorrow afternoon. Sunday, big changes arrive. A cold front moves through. It brings a chance of rain and some storms. Some could be on the strong side, and you can see it does a number to our temperatures, dropping us back into the low 80s for the second day of fall. We'll track that cold front and give you an idea of when you can expect those storms here coming up in about 14 minutes.
Happening now in Conway, police are searching for a man they say could be armed with a knife. According to a Facebook post from the police department, Josh Johnson ran off after an incident near the Quail Creek subdivision. Officers are asking people in the area to stay inside their homes if possible while they search the area for him with K-9 officers. If you see Johnson, do not approach him, just call 911. Meanwhile, we are continuing to keep an eye on the future of the Little Rock Housing Authority after allegations from federal housing officials. A report from HUD points to financial and management issues at the Metropolitan Housing Alliance that continued for several years. Both the city attorney and the MHA's attorney say the members need to stay put until the matter gets resolved in an organized way. A public hearing before the Little Rock Board of Directors is set for next Tuesday. Upgrades to Arkansas's electrical grid are coming soon as the state is set to receive federal funding. The Federal Grid Enhancement Grant Program is funding more than $10 million to help strengthen the state's electrical grid. Scott Harding with the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration says these improvements are essential to keep the lights on and ultimately keep Arkansans safe during inclement weather.
There are all these different options and steps that can be taken, but knowing that we're taking those steps, so if something does happen, that hopefully you don't have to worry about your home having electricity.
The state will receive $5 million in the first year and the remaining $5 million next year. State officials expect to receive even more money after that time frame. Well, a bus carrying a New York high school band crashed yesterday. 2 adults were killed and several teenagers critically hurt when their bus ran off of a highway and overturned about an hour outside of New York City. Doug Williams of CBS New York reports on the accident that happened at the start of a weekend trip.
All available manpower in the rescue needed to respond to Interstate 84.
This was the terrifying scene in Wawayanda, New York Thursday after a charter bus carrying 40 high school students, many of them freshmen, tumbled into a 50-foot ravine.
If you could possibly get to the scene, we're going to need all your equipment.
First responders rushed to the debris-filled site, using ladders to climb onto the teetering bus and breaking windows to rescue students. Some were taken to nearby hospitals.
Today was a day of terror. No one could have foreseen what these 40 students and 4 adults would have experienced, but certainly there are families grieving today.
The bus was one of 6 taking Farmingdale High School students to band camp in Pennsylvania.
They had a weekend planned of fun and enjoying their musicianship, and unfortunately, the day ended in tragedy for so many.
2 of the 4 adults on board, retired teacher Beatrice Ferrari and school band director Gina Pelletier, were killed. At least 5 students were critically injured.
If it wasn't for the people behind me and all that they did, we would have lost more, and they wouldn't have gotten the care as quickly as they did.
The National Transportation Safety Board and state police are investigating, but the governor says the preliminary information points to a faulty front tire contributing to the crash. Doug Williams, CBS News.
Well, Congress is facing a hard deadline to pass a spending bill or there will be a government shutdown. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is struggling to build consensus within the House GOP. Despite having just 8 days left to reach and pass a spending deal to keep the government open, most members of the U.S. House left the Capitol for the weekend. This comes after hard right Republicans blocked debate on a bill to fund the Pentagon for a second time.
We should not fear a shutdown in the sense that we hurt the American people further to avoid a shutdown, which would have minimal impact if we just had a shutdown for a week or two while we're getting our spending bills done.
Now, the Biden administration began sending notices to federal agencies to begin preparations for a shutdown. There are roughly 2.2 million federal employees. Some would be furloughed without pay during the government shutdown, but others deemed essential will be required to work. Striking auto workers are having an impact on the U.S. economy. Fewer cars getting made means less supply and more demand, driving up prices. Dealers are concerned about more than just inventory on the lot. The strikes could also impact availability of replacement parts for service. The UAW strike just got bigger, and the union's president called for workers at 38 locations in 20 states to walk off the job today. Chris Van Cleve is at a Ford plant in Wayne, Michigan with the latest.
Union strong! Union strong!
Thousands more auto workers are joining the picket lines on the 8th day of the UAW strike.
Reinforcements are coming.
The union's president, Shawn Fain, says negotiations with Ford are moving in the right direction, but that's not the case with General Motors and Chrysler parent Stellantis.
All of the parts distribution facilities at General Motors and Stellantis are being called to stand up and strike.
That includes about 5,600 workers from 38 locations across 20 states. They'll join the nearly 13,000 workers at 3 Midwest plants who kicked off the strike last week.
When you lose production at those plants, that's when things at General Assemblies go down. That's when, the whole system falls apart. So this is a huge escalation in terms of work stoppage.
Striking union members say they're in it for the long haul.
We'll take as long as we have to. If they're willing to come back and negotiate, we'll be ready at any time.
Automakers have seized on what appear to be some leaked messages outlining the union strategy obtained by the Detroit News here in town that seem to indicate the union is planning for a long and costly strike. Automakers say the strike's ripple effects forced temporary layoffs of roughly 3,000 others whose work depends on the closed plants. Now, with the strike expanding, those kinds of ripple effects are expected to increase. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Wayne, Michigan.
With hopes of avoiding a potential government shutdown, the Biden administration introduced a new plan that could help tens of millions of Americans see their medical debt wiped off of their credit scores. Now, of course, that's if the administration has its way. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is working on new rules that would bar unpaid medical bills from affecting patients' credit scores. The new regulations are expected to be developed sometime next year. The American Red Cross recently declared a national blood shortage, citing a nearly 25% drop in the blood supply since last month. Blood banks around the country are hoping more people get the message and get out and donate. Sean Chitness introduces us to a California man who keeps coming back to save lives.
On a recent visit to the Vitalant Donation Center, Dennis Walter marked giving blood 300 times.
It saves lives. I mean, people that need blood need it now. So, and it's easy for me to do, So I do it.
He's been giving blood for 30 years. At one point, he was donating every 2 weeks. He can no longer give platelets, but still comes in once a month to give plasma.
Well, I've asked that question several times, and they say as long as I'm healthy, I can keep coming.
He says it's nothing to be afraid of and enjoys the experience, spending an hour catching up on his favorite shows while in this chair.
I know it's helping somebody, and I know that whenever they need it, they can't go out and solicit it. It's got to be there. It's got to be on the shelf.
In fact, Vitalant has a goal of storing up to 4 days of blood on its shelves, but it's already seen that supply go well below that level this summer.
The need is constant. You know, as fast as people are donating, it's going out to hospitals. There's always somebody in need of blood.
So many donations over so many years has truly added up for the blood bank.
I've been very blessed in life, and I need to give back. This is one way to do it.
Dennis has likely helped to save thousands of lives and had an impact on many more family and friends grateful to see their loved ones survive. Sean Chitness, CBS News, Fairfield, California.
Well, still to come, one designer is asking you to go the extra mile, not for yourself, but for Mother Nature. We'll explain why these shoes are so unique when TV11 News at Noon returns.
Looking live off towards the west, where there are some showers in parts of Arkansas this afternoon. Do those showers continue into the weekend? If so, how do they impact your weekend plans? All those answers and more coming up in your 7-day forecast right after the break.